In the second week of November, 4 years after Summer Wells was reported missing, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation initiated a new on-ground search linked directly to her case. The agency publicly confirmed that this operation was conducted to follow up on a new lead, marking the first time since mid-2021 that investigators returned with a targeted, location-specific objective. The significance of this action lies not only in the timing but in the precision of the chosen site. The 3500 block of Van Hill Road, a rural corridor approximately 9.5 miles from the Wells residence on Ben Hill Road. Van Hill Road is not an incidental location. The terrain in this sector of Greene and Hawkins County includes steep elevation changes, dense wooded patches, narrow gravel access points, and multiple tracts of privately owned land ranging from 10 to 40 acres. Unlike previous search areas near the Wells home, which were mapped in broad surface grids, this location suggests a narrow focus. Entry routes include SR 347 as the main connective artery, along with several unmarked side roads and dirt paths that branch off toward isolated homesteads. Travel time from Ben Hill Road varies significantly depending on route, risking detection unless the individual moving through the area had local knowledge of which road segments remained unmonitored. The search radius applied by TBI in this operation has not been disclosed publicly. However, based on typical rural search protocols, the likely approach involved sequential zone clearing, perimeter containment, visual sweep, canine deployment, and subsurface assessment where anomalies or depressions were identified. The environment around Van Hill Road contains natural features commonly analyzed in long-term missing child cases: ravines, shallow ponds, erosion basins, and tree-lined slopes providing concealment for both natural and non-natural materials. These landscape characteristics influence both the relevance of the tip and the tactical choices made by investigators upon arrival. Multiple agencies were observed in the area, including the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office. Greene County units may also have been involved, given the proximity of the search site to the county boundary. The FBI has not confirmed formal participation, but historically their evidence response teams have supported long-term forensic recovery searches in similar cases. The presence or absence of federal resources directly affects the type of evidence investigators expect to encounter: surface-level items, buried remains, digital linked disposal routes, or secondary crime scene indicators. A central legal factor in this operation is property access. Searching private land typically requires either voluntary cooperation from the owner or a judicially approved warrant supported by probable cause. The fact that the search proceeded suggests one of two possibilities. 1. The landowner consented, indicating prior communication between investigators and individuals connected to the property. Or 2. Investigators obtained a warrant based on the credibility and specificity of the new lead. Either scenario implies that the tip was strong enough to justify intrusive forensic action. To understand the weight of this new search, it is necessary to compare it with the earlier searches conducted between June 2021 and early 2023.
All right, and here's where I'm having a little problem with this video. We've got one news channel that covered it, one or two that in that area, local channels that said there was a lead in it. But what we're not seeing, as this gentleman that created this video is saying, we're not seeing massive people on the news channels out there. We're not seeing helicopters flying over. We're not seeing what they're saying. And I can't believe so unless I can see it with my own eyes. So we've had no one in that area come out with a phone video uh, saying, "Oh my God, look at all these police, look at the government, everything, choppers and people searching everywhere, metal detectors and everything." Well, if it was a pig farm and they're stating that this was a pig farm and the pigs ate her, well, 5 years have gone by. I doubt if they clean the pig pen out, there's a good chance there ain't nothing there. Could be in the field somewhere out there. Maybe they sell manure. people are saying, well, her teeth would be left over. Well, not if they clean their pig pen. Now it's been 5 years. Pig poop is what they use for fertilizer sometime or whatever. So what my concern is a very good chance that this is a planned uh, a planned thing, a planned diversion, or uh, they need the income to keep coming in, and they're producing stuff that we're just not seeing. This is such a high profile case. It made it to Dr. Phil's channel, very high profile. And what we're not seeing is the evidence that any of this stuff that these YouTubers have been saying, uh, massive amount of people there and everything, manpower and everything, we're just not seeing it on the news or in any other YouTube's videos coming out. So, uh, you guys take that with a grain of salt. But fact be the fact, being as high profile as this is, if anything that these people were saying was true, uh, you know, and massive amounts of authority out there, we would have already seen it on YouTube or the news, and we're not. So, we're holding out, but it looks like maybe it was duped and duped for a reason to keep the case going, or it's a moneymaker. And that brings me back to YouTube and Google. Uh, these people are known traffickers, druggies, cartels, yada yada, and they're being paid by YouTube and protected. So that brings YouTube and Google into this as cartel operators. Many things, you know. So it's huge. It's bigger than what anyone knows. Now, a lot of people got pissed and, well, what do you mean? Well, they're being paid. Instead of YouTube shutting their channels down, knowing they're convicted felons, SA people, numerous things, they're being supplied by money to continue their acts and their madness in public. And that's contributing to trafficking. If they're trafficking, if they're drug cartel, uh, sex trade, whatever. And it's pretty crazy. Clubs, gangs. Uh, and a lot of people are pissed, being that they showed little Summer Wells throwing gang signs uh, and Candace. Now, now they're trying to blame the Vice Lords, which I've never seen the Vice Lords with a 5-point star. I have seen them with a crown, you know, a 5-point crown, maybe a star or whatever. I don't know. But now they're saying anyone that has a star on them is Vice Lords. And, we've seen this in the beginning of the Summer Wells case where Don Wells was saying it was the Mexican uh, mafia and it was, drug dealers down the street. So we've seen this kind of uh, thing before in this case where these, and we also seen that in the Delphi case where a couple of these guys were saying it was the syndicate and the mafia uh, that killed the two little girls. And I was like, you guys are nuts. There's no way the syndicate killed the two little girls. And we found out that was a bunch of bull crap that they were spreading around in the case. So, you know, we'll believe it on this channel when it comes out and we can see police there. The address lines up. We can see authority out there, searchers, drones, helicopters. Then we will believe what these YouTubers are pretty much saying. But for now, not too much. And it's just part uh, of a diversion or a tactic to make a grab for the money. And it's going to be a huge lawsuit. And how many people were killed over this or trafficked? And the whole thing with YouTube, I believe, is like probably a front, right? It's probably a front. The whole Ernie Shell running for governor, The whole thing with the Candace and Don, all up front, diversion, tactical war, mind games. But I think the government's going to have the last war mind game on these people, and it's going to be horrible. But that's just my opinion. Let's watch a little bit more of this video. I posted it in my chat in the description. Great video this guy made. Let's watch a little bit more.
The initial search efforts near Ben Hill Road were extremely broad. Hundreds of personnel, K9 units, drones, thermal imaging, and water-based searches across ponds, creeks, and rugged terrain. Those efforts aimed to locate a child potentially lost or abducted within close range of the home. Subsequent smaller searches were conducted when specific tips.
Now, there's another thing I want to point out real quick. We didn't, in the beginning of this case, we didn't see no hundreds and hundreds of people out there searching, or drones or helicopter. The one helicopter that these people reported that was out there, they're looking for Summer. That was not a search and rescue helicopter. That was a power line helicopter for the power company out there that was cutting down tree limbs close to the power lines out there by where Candace and Don live. There was no search. It was the biggest scam, money grab ever, probably in a long time. It's just ridiculous, the lies that they told. Now they're saying, someone came up and took Summer off of the property. Well, if that's so, then we got the right guys, because they all knew each other before Summer came up missing, and they still all know each other, and they ran and helped the family and everything, and really made themselves suspects, nobody else. And the records, after we found out the records, most of them moved. A couple of them lived up here, but Boot Scoot boogied out because of their records, So it's really crazy. Let's continue to watch this video.
Or community reports surfaced, but none matched the focused scope observed on Van Hill Road in November of this year. Importantly, Van Hill Road had never been identified as part of the 2021 to 2022 search grid, meaning this area was outside the operational hypothesis during the early phases of the investigation. The decision to search a previously untouched location 4 years later indicates a shift in investigative theory. A multi-year gap without large-scale field searches is not typical unless investigators are waiting for new information, rechecking data patterns, or validating technological findings such as cell tower pings, historical GPS traces, vehicle movement timelines, or router Wi-Fi logs. Any of these data types can become relevant years later when reanalyzed under new software, updated forensic tools, or cross-referenced with new witness statements. Long-term missing child searches frequently incorporate cadaver dogs trained to detect human decomposition over extended time frames. In terrain like Van Hill Road, these dogs are typically deployed along ridgelines, fence lines, the edges of ponds, and older disturbed soil. Ground-penetrating radar is
With Loop earplugs, you can enjoy any event without feeling overwhelmed or overstimulated. But that's not all. They enhance your style, fit snugly yet comfortably, but most
is another method commonly used when investigators have reason to believe a burial site may exist. GPR can detect soil density variations consistent with dig sites, even several years old, though accuracy depends on soil composition and moisture content. The region's clay-rich soil can preserve anomalies for long periods, making it a viable location for this tool. Additionally, investigators may have used infrared imaging, drone-mounted LIDAR, and manual probing tools to examine depressions or irregularities. If water sources were present, divers or sonar-equipped teams may have been used to evaluate the bottom sediment layers for metallic, organic, or textile-related evidence. The catalyst behind this search remains undisclosed. However, statistically, late-phase investigative activity of this type typically stems from one of the following: a delayed witness confession, a tip from an associate or relative of someone connected to the case, newly surfaced digital evidence, such as reactivated devices, old account recoveries, or deleted message retrieval, or reinterpreted behavioral statements from earlier witnesses. The timing also suggests the possibility of recantations or disclosures from individuals who were previously silent due to fear, loyalty, or legal risk. This new operation matters because it signals that investigators are not merely revisiting old ground.
Now this, I would believe. I would believe this. They might have got some old phone data back. It takes forever to read all this phone data and get it out of servers and everything. We've seen that also in the Delphi case. Took forever. And it might have served that. That's true. They might have went over things again. Maybe a new detective on the case and he spotted something. That's true. It could be a fake lead. And from all that I'm seeing, this happened a couple days ago. This came out that there was a lead, massive presence of police force and FBI at a property in Van Hill Road. But what we didn't see was evidence of that with our own eyes through news channels or a bystander that lived around there. I mean, we know everyone around that area knows the Summer Wells case, probably. If you live down the street from them a couple miles, you probably know about it. And that's what we're not seeing. And we're not going to say anything until we see that, because then we'll know it's true. And we get news channels out there, and you got drones flying around, cadaver dogs, metal detectors, and a massive amount of people searching and stuff. Then, yeah, we believe it. But it could be numerous things that popped up. Like I said, they could have been reworking this case, and someone knew. When a detective gets hung up on it, sometimes, they'll pass that case off to a new hot hand, a new guy coming in, or somebody that might be more experienced in investigating, and they rework the whole case again and they go over stuff. Maybe they seen something that someone missed. It's possible. Numerous things. So many players in this game, which we've seen it also, possibly fake leads, yada yada. Yeah, it's possible.
They are acting on information that specifically directs them to a precise location. In long-term cases, such targeted searches indicate a measurable increase in investigative confidence. Whether or not physical evidence was recovered is unknown, but the decision to search suggests the case has entered a new analytical phase driven by information strong enough to remobilize resources after years of limited field activity. When news broke that investigators had executed a new targeted search on Van Hill Road, the public expected some form of response from the two individuals who should have the greatest interest in any progress, Don Wells and Candace Bly. Instead, they issued a brief statement declining to speak, explaining that offering comments would only cause more drama and pain. This reaction is not merely a casual refusal. It represents a sharp behavioral shift from the pattern they established consistently over 4 years. To understand why this silence matters, a comparison with their prior behavior is necessary. Don Wells participated in countless live streams during 2021 and 2022, often calling into YouTube channels unprompted. His tone during these appearances fluctuated widely, from defensive to confrontational to emotional, but he was consistently willing to engage. He responded to rumors, addressed accusations, challenged critics, and attempted to explain or re-explain details of the day Summer disappeared. During this period, new speculation about the case, regardless of source or credibility. Candace Bly, although less visible than Don, also made herself available across different platforms. She appeared in Chris McDonough's interview, participated in Dr. Phil tapings, dialed into live streams, and spoke with multiple creators covering the case. Even when her comments were fragmented or inconsistent, she chose visibility. Her behavior indicated a willingness to engage despite public criticism and the volatility of online commentary. This makes their current silence unusual. Historically, they were most vocal during times when the investigation lacked momentum.
You know, you know, looking, look at Candace's face and her eyes right now. I mean, if I could blow that photo up, you could see a woman that is, whatever is behind her eyes is pure evil. It's just demonic. It's just were they practicing this dark art crap or whatever? Were they summoning demons to protect them or attack people? I'm not sure, people. I'm really looking into it. Ever since CIA released that stuff on their looks into all this stuff, if it's real, if it ain't real, is it some kind of occult brainwashing where that itself is dangerous? Even though it's not real, but they act like it's real, and they all think it's real, and they all practice this. They sacrifice, and that's a problem. That's a problem, because one day it's animals, the next it's humans, and the next thing you know, they're summoning demons or whatever and killing people, slaughtering. I'm just saying, she's got one horrible looking look on her face of evil. Now, let's continue. Very well, they dabbled in something or and became possessed. Well, I don't know. Look at that face. She ain't no happy camper. She's probably regretting ever going on YouTube or listening to these idiots tell your story on YouTube, Candace. I bet you she and Don are pissed. Yeah. It just pure stupidism, if you ask me. Let's return to watching.
Momentum. Whenever law enforcement provided no meaningful update, both Dawn and Candace filled the information vacuum by offering explanations, theories, denials, and emotional statements. Yet when the investigation suddenly advanced with a new field search, a moment when innocent parents typically express hope, gratitude, or renewed urgency, they disengage completely. In case studies of parental reactions in long-term missing child investigations, behavior typically follows one of two trajectories. Parents who are not implicated or who feel no risk in speaking publicly often express relief at any investigative progress. They publicly support search efforts, request transparency, and renew calls for information. Conversely, parents who retreat during key investigative moments usually do so in response to pressure, either legal pressure from counsel or psychological pressure, stemming from fear that new developments may contradict earlier statements. Several motives may explain Dawn and Candace's refusal. The first is the possibility of legal counsel advising them to remain silent. If they were contacted by investigators or believed the new search could reopen lines of questioning previously considered dormant, a strategic withdrawal would be consistent with attorney guidance. Silence becomes a protective mechanism to avoid inadvertently altering their statements or creating discrepancies that could be used against them. A second possibility involves fear of conflicting with previous narrative structures. Both Dawn and Candace have given multiple versions of key events, timelines, last seen details, the sequence of actions within minutes of Summer's disappearance, and the behaviors of individuals present that day. A new investigative development on land with no prior connection to the official search may create anxiety if they fear that new evidence could contradict statements they previously made publicly. A third potential motive is social proximity. If the new lead involves individuals within their extended social network, neighbors, acquaintances, individuals connected through the region's informal community structures, they may perceive the search as a threat emerging from within, not from outside. This could produce fear, uncertainty, or a desire to detach from the discussion until more is known. A fourth possibility is perceived exposure from internal sources. Many long-term cases advance only when individuals close to the situation decide to speak after years of silence. The timing of the news search may signal to Dawn and Candace that someone with personal knowledge has provided information to law enforcement. When individuals
Well, that's true too. This guy's right about that too. I can't say no. You know what would I would have gave information or you know advise the Wells to do? Go to the news channels. Stay off social media. Keep your mouth quiet. And if searches do occur, it probably would be in your best interest then to go back on the news and say they find your daughter. We're not seeing that. We're not seeing nothing. We're seeing one news channel, whether it's a real news channel or fake, put out that there's massive amounts of people out there and presence of police or whatever, or at least these YouTubers saying that. And what my opinion is, too many people knew about it, you know, and who were the people that knew about what happened? Well, the ring of people around Candace, and that for over 5 years still implicates all these people, and they knew what happened, but they covered it up. What? Money. They knew the family before the little girl came up missing, and they remained friends with them. So if any tips came from anybody, it's within their own circle, which they themselves knew about this for a long time and didn't go to the authorities. And why I say that is because it's been 5 years. You don't wait 3-4 years and then go to the authorities with a dark, deep secret after you made a bunch of money on YouTube and yada, 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 yada. And you say you belong to clubs, gangs. You rode with Sonny Barger of the Hells Angels, and you're all, Cartell and Cornbread Mafia and Cannabis and all. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I hate to say it, but any tips you did give, probably by the Bureau investigation and everything, is you're still guilty of obstruction of justice and withholding information and murder. So good luck on that. Let's continue a little bit with this. Very good video this guy made.
individuals believe a hidden narrative is being revealed by others, silence is a common reaction as they reassess which pieces of information could resurface and how much is now beyond their control. Their demographic and behavioral history also play a role. Both individuals have documented struggles involving substance use, emotional instability, interpersonal conflict, and chaotic communication patterns. Individuals within these profiles often respond to external pressure with abrupt shifts. Their communication history shows impulsivity, inconsistency, and reactivity, making a sudden strategic silence particularly conspicuous. The public backlash they experienced over the years further complicates their behavior. Every interview, live stream appearance, or recorded phone call became fuel for speculation and criticism. This pattern created a negative feedback loop. The more they spoke, the worse the public reaction became. This historical context might contribute to their desire to avoid creating more drama, as stated. Yet this reasoning alone does not fully align with the timing, because the backlash they cite has existed for years, but the silence only emerged now, at the precise moment of new police activity. In the context of the case, the refusal to comment becomes more than a personal decision, it is a behavioral marker. Their silence, arriving at the exact moment law enforcement re-entered the field based on a new lead, stands out as a significant data point in understanding how they perceive the renewed direction of the investigation. The decision to search the 3500 block of Van Hill Road raises an immediate question: why this location, and why now, 4 years after Summer Wells disappeared? To understand the relevance of this area, it is necessary to break down 3 components. 1. The geography of Van Hill Road. 2. The ownership and social network connected to the land. And 3. the investigative meaning behind choosing a site that had never been searched before. Van Hill Road sits along the border between Hawkins County and Greene County, two rural regions with large tracts of private property, limited surveillance, and winding roads that are difficult for outsiders to navigate. The boundary line between the counties is not clearly marked in the landscape. It shifts between wooded slopes, elevation drops, and narrow gravel paths. This makes
All right, I just want to throw in there this guy's right. I got a squirrel climbing up the trees looking right at me inside my window here. I haven't been feeding them lately. All right, but this guy's got a point. 4 years go by now, all of a sudden there's a tip. Right down the road from their house. You know, and now, I was watching the Shellinator, and he was saying that this guy was released uh, uh, from prison on SA, yada yada, all this stuff, lived there. Uh, but here's the thing: the police would have knew about that guy right off the bat. Right off the bat, they would have went directly to his house, within a probably 20-mile range of any SA people, sexual assault people, or violent people around there with records like that. The authorities and FBI or TBI would have known all that information right from the get-go. Right with an abduction of a little girl, and you got an SA person right down the street. What does it start off at when you're an investigator? Well, let me tell you, I hate to say it, but it's the last people that seen that little girl alive. Whether it be 20 people, 30 people, the last people that seen somebody alive is usually a witness to something or know something. I'm just going to throw that out, okay? Just going to throw that out there. And that's how it's always been, the last people to see that little girl alive, and what was she doing when they were with her, and what do they go from there? The family. After that, what do they investigate? Friends. And then after that, but first, before all of that, as they're doing that, talking to the family and doing that, they're also pulling up any sexual assault people that are registered in that area, or violent people in sex, assault sex. And they're looking at that as they're talking to the parents and everything. So, for them to not say they didn't know about this guy, the police or whatever, I find it kind of hard to believe. I mean, not unless they're not good at what they do.
the area harder to patrol, especially at night, and particularly useful to someone who knows exactly where county jurisdiction changes. Law enforcement patrol routes in these zones often have gaps, dead zones where neither county routinely monitors activity. The land around the 3500 block includes properties ranging from 20 to 40 acres, many of them heavily wooded. The terrain consists of low ridges, dense brush, and old logging paths no longer shown on modern maps. Access points are limited. Some properties connect only through single-lane dirt roads that bend behind tree lines, making them invisible from the main road. Anyone unfamiliar with the area would find it easy to get lost, make a wrong turn, or end up on private land without realizing it. It is not a tourist route. It is not a shortcut. It is the kind of place where only locals, landowners, or people with personal ties would have reasons to be present. Because of this, one of the first investigative questions is whether this location was ever searched in the early stages of the case. The documented 2021 search grids, covering Ben Hill Road, Beach Creek, the waterline, ridge lines, and surrounding hollows, do not include the Van Hill area. This means the new search is not a repeat of old ground. It represents a first-time entry based on information that did not exist or was not considered credible in 2021. That alone makes it significant. Next, the question of property ownership. Public records indicate that several parcels along Van Hill Road belong to long-established local families. In community discussions about the case, names such as Paul Hill and Frank Hill appear frequently, largely because they own or manage land in this.
All right, now they're talking about land and, you're up in the hollers, and if they're all family and all own the land around there, you're not going to get pretty much anything out of them. It don't take a rocket scientist. Here's the thing I'm saying. They're at that property of the Hills or whoever this guy is, Scott something or whatever, Shell saying, who was a SAer or in prison. He was a debt collector for the drug cartels and all this. Don't you think the effing police would have looked at that even though he was 8 miles down the street? Well, it's not our jurisdiction. Well, this is why you got so many murders in your country, is because your police are not doing their jobs. You couldn't pick up a phone and call. Yeah, you got any, the next county over, you got any SA people living, within a 5-10 mile radius of the Summer Wells case? You didn't know that information? 4 years go by and now all of a sudden you're going, it ain't making sense. The whole Hill thing and Frank and 4 years go by and you haven't even looked at their properties and their names have been all over the. Yeah, that's your problem in America. Yo, Twister, how you doing? So let's watch a little bit more of this and then I'm done with this. I got another video I'm going to be doing about something else.
Region. Online audiences have also discussed connections between the Hill family and other individuals in the Summer Wells case. None of these claims have been confirmed by law enforcement, but they reflect one important fact. Van Hill Road is not an anonymous or isolated area. It is part of a long-standing local network of families who have lived there for decades. This is relevant because in rural areas, especially those with overlapping families and old property lines, land is often shared, leased, or informally used by extended relatives. A person may access a property without leaving a digital or legal trace if they are related to the owner or have long-standing familiarity with the land. For investigators, that raises the possibility that the new lead may be connected to someone who knows the area well. Another layer of discussion involves water features on the land. Community posts have mentioned ponds, retention pools, and fish stocking areas. None of these details have been confirmed by TBI, but the presence of water matters from a forensic perspective. Ponds, even small ones, can retain biological material, clothing fibers, or metallic objects for years.
All right, let me cap on the lakes around there. People are saying, well, she could be in a lake. Well, if she was in a lake, she would have had to been tied down to something, either a log, concrete blocks, cinder blocks, or put in a drum, holes poked in it so it would sink, right? Water would rush into it and it would sink. So the pond theory, it could be. Another theory I was thinking or thought was maybe someone did own that property and maybe somebody that owns that property, whether it be the Hills, whatever, grew a conscience and came out and said, well, I think maybe somebody that is part of my family might have done it. And, for a fact I know or whatever, and led them to this area or whatever. But that's the thing. There'll still be charges because 4 years, you just don't. This is if it is a murder, we don't even know if it's a murder. It could have been, this little girl could have been sold, could have been adopted, could have been taken away from CPS. And would they come up with this big thing to hide them all? Maybe. Very possible. No, don't know. I'm saying it's 100% guaranteed. Nothing is. But it's possible that something other than she's dead happened. That's true. So I'm going to end this right here. And like I said, what we're not seeing on the local news, Tennessee news, any YouTube channels, is someone standing by a roadblock with a video camera saying this is the property that they're looking for Summer Wells for. And it could be numerous things. Somebody could have just seen a bunch of police there, and the people that used to live there might have moved. 4 years have gone by. Someone else moved in that property, one of them houses that family owned, and the police were looking for them. We don't know that, we got one news channel or two, I think, that came out and said there was a new lead and police are looking into it. Didn't talk about a massive amount of police there, all these people there. That was the Shellinator and the rest of them, and whoever was on his channel that day or whatever. I haven't seen nothing. I've been looking. I haven't seen nothing on YouTube. I've been checking the news channel and Googling it, and I haven't seen anything on it. So until I do, I'm just saying, I'm not saying it ain't. I'm not saying it is. I can't say. I don't have the video looking with a bunch of people out there and choppers flying around and police cars and FBI. We're on the scene. They're here. It's true. Massive amount of people looking. Dogs. Wow. Cadaver dogs should be out there right now, combing that whole area. Drones. That's a big area. They're saying 40 acres. Get 5 drones out there. Some yellow jackets going out there. Let them fly around, start looking around, taking footage. Look at the ground. Someone said something, or as we all think, it was a fake lead to bring more attention or to try and steal the light, steal the spotlight of the Summer Wells case. And believe me, I've been through it. We've seen it in the Delphi case. All right, you folks have a good day. I got a couple things other coming up that I'm doing. I want to thank Twister for stopping in. And you folks have a great day, and God bless. All these people are innocent until proven guilty. Although some of them really did a good job in making themselves suspicious and possibly charges of obstruction of justice, conspiracy, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. You folks have a great day. God bless. I'll be back.